But can I tell you that this was my favorite 10 minutes I've ever had in a podcast so far? And I've hosted one with 265 episodes or something. These 10 minutes has really been life affirming for me just so far.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective Podcast. My name is Carbon.
And I'm Emily.
And welcome to the show.
Yoo! So we have a really special episode for everyone. Before the podcast relaunched a few episodes back, we had the incredible opportunity to interview JVN. And for those of you who don't know, Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye, and a whole lot of other amazing things that they're doing with Netflix, with their own podcast, with their own hair care line, etc. But we had a really special time chatting with them about everything from career advice to trans rights to foursquare.
It got a little odd.
In the best way possible.
Yeah, and we honestly learned so much from the podcast. It was such an incredible opportunity, so we hope that in this conversation you benefit as much as we did. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Do it.
Come on, press the button, please.
Okay, they did it.
Nice.
Yeah, for
Okay, cool,
sure.
let's go.
Transition.
Thanks so much for joining us. I feel like it's really cool of you to be doing this with grassroots queer organizations, and I love that.
Yes. I'm like, oh, you guys are grassroots? I didn't know that.
Grassroots.
I better get, I'm just kidding. No, I'm so excited to be here.
Go.
That's part of, no, I love that about y'all. When the opportunity came, I was like, oh my gosh, I love their vibe. I love what they're doing. Let's get into it. Yeah. And I also feel like you guys are giving me a modern, queer Rose and Jack, except for without the sinking and hopefully without the classism. But it's just drawing and photographing each other and just being really arty and participating in dance and art and they didn't have photography. Maybe they did in 1912, but regardless, it's giving that. I want to see the sketching. I want to see the photos. I feel like it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. There's room for you on my wooden plank.
Thank you so much.
I was really triggered because the other day I discovered that I had the live on Hulu and Titanic was on, and I haven't seen it since I was 10, and I was just whoa.
You go back and you realize a bunch of things too. It's is that okay? I don't know.
Did it age well? Is it good?
Did it age? Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
I feel I have to say, graphically, with the CG, I feel like that and Twister both really still for 90s movies do it for me. Those two movies once I start I can't stop, and they were just on TV. I'm sorry I'm talking about this. I didn't mean to.
I love it.
I love it.
It's Pride, so we're allowed to talk about anything.
Yeah,
basically anything
100%.
goes, and anything you say is correct.
Yeah.
Well, then in that case, are we going to talk about how cool the texture of your hair is, Carbon? Because wow, people can't see it on the podcast, but if you guys have no, I mean the waves, the texture, the shape, all of it. I just am. Can I tell you? I'm not even just trying to say it, but it's true. Sometimes I fantasize about having your haircut.
No way.
You should do it.
No, it's true. And then every time I show it to the one of the three people who I have cut my hair, they're always girl, you just need a haircut. You just haven't had a haircut for a year and a half, and you just need to trim. You're just you just want this big change. But I'm no, I want a wavy shag. I want a wavy 70s shag.
Yes.
And then they're you think you do, but then I think when you want to put your hair in a top bun, you're gonna have a breakdown.
No, okay, top bun doesn't really work, but what you're doing right now, or a half up, half down, works really well, and it's really cute.
But I have a really gigantic head, Carbon. I have a really big head. No, seriously, in 5th grade, we did this hideous thing when we learned about the average, the mean, and the
median.
And do you know how they made us learn about it? It's so fucked up. Or are you allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Yeah,
Yes.
say whatever you want.
They literally made us measure our heads with these strings. They made us measure it, and then they measured it, and mine was 78 centimeters when we were in 5th grade, and mine was the biggest in the class by 10 centimeters, and everyone called me Big Head. And then there was this girl whose last name was I hope she's not listening, but it was Melon Thin, and she had the next biggest head, and they called her Melon Head. And then she ended up getting lice. So they called me Big Head and they called her Melon Head. And then she got lice. And so it was just we were going through so much in 5th grade. And that's how and then my head size was used for the top of the average or the mean or whatever and the median. And I've never, but anyway, the reason I say that story is because actually, like, my hair has to be long as shit to put it in a half up, half down. Because I feel like this part of my head is like literally 12 inches. Like, it's huge.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's like so long. So like, unless I put the ponytail like right here, it really has to be like long. And I feel like hairdressers get that. It's like, I just have this like big ass head.
Well,
it really is
all that
like
knowledge.
I really never noticed, but I'm so sorry
really
that
big.
you got bullied and when you were in 5th grade. It's like as if you need more reasons to be bullied.
I know. I was already like a
young
queer
kid.
femme.
Yeah.
Yes. With a big ass head. And they let me know about it. They really did.
Oh my god.
That was a poor choice by the teacher.
But I also feel like people were like secretly hateful because I was also like really freakishly good at foursquare. Like I was really good. You remember
were
foursquare
you?
with the bouncy
Of
balls?
course I do.
I was like Serena and Venus.
I was
out
really
there, but
good
with Foursquare.
too.
Oh, and I was giving you Monica Seles with my grunts. I was like, like when I was like hitting, I was so serious. And like, I just think people also hated me for that because I was just like unshakable, like under the pressure. Like I got to that king spot and like there's no
taking you off.
Can we please bring back adult Foursquare? Like, don't you
would
realize that
love
in this
that,
moment, I realize that people are out here playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like, we should have Foursquare.
Yes,
Have
we
you done
recently brought back
Grounders?
adult grounders.
Have you ever played Grounders?
Have you ever played
What's
Grounders?
that? Am I missing
Is this a
whole life?
Canadian thing?
Maybe. I
Let
don't
me
know.
teach
I love Canadian stuff.
So
What is it?
Grounders is where you go to just a playground, a kid's playground, as adults, I guess, and then, and you have everybody on the playground, and then the person who's it closes their eyes, so they have no idea where you are, and they have to try and find you on this big playground. And if you're touching the ground and they yell grounders, you're it. And also, if they catch you with their eyes closed, you're it.
Oh, wait, so it's kind of like Marco Polo, but
Yeah.
with climbing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And typically you don't say like where you are. You try to be as silent as possible, but you really have to tune into your hearing and like notice people shifting and running and like it's really fun and dangerous.
All right, if you guys open like a queer collective, like art space or like recreational
My
space.
dream.
I would request there be like a ping pong Foursquare corner. You guys could also have like a playground like for grounders, like maybe outside, but I really just feel like ping pong and Foursquare, like I really need it. I need more of it. Like, don't you
feel
always
like
realize
an
every
adults
summer
only playground, so like you don't feel creepy, but there's a way to like express your inner child without feeling like
There's
you're
time
taking
for
up
play.
children's
I don't
space.
even like need that part. Like I got my fill of playgrounds, like and like the McDonald's playgrounds, like that's fine for it's like that's like your queer collective truth, like because that's we're all on a spectrum. Like we don't all have to like have like the same likes. But I like for my corner, like for the JVN corner, like I'll make a donation for this part. Like I just need like a ping pong table, like Foursquare corner.
Yes.
God. In Canada, you guys have like the Foursquare. You know what I'm talking about? Like the Foursquares in the circle. You get, Also, there could be tetherball. Sometimes that's like a little hard for my wrists. Like it kind of hurts my wrist, like the tetherball. You know, like that. Yeah, that kind of hurts my wrists. But people really like that.
Y'all, sorry to interrupt, but I have a lot of burning questions for you.
Oh, but can I tell you that this is my favorite 10 minutes I've ever had in a podcast so far, and I've like hosted one with 265 episodes or something. Like, these 10 minutes has really been life affirming for me just so far. Just want to like
Thank God.
Oh, I love that. And then in terms of tetherball, I just wanted to bring up, you do have to protect your wrist because gay wrists are like just so important, especially in June.
Yeah.
It hurts like my hand too, because it's like that ball's kind of hard. You just have to like, because I feel like the Foursquare ball is like a bit more of a kickball. It's a little more rubbery. There's a little more give. I feel like that tether ball is like
keep it tight right here and just
and that's hard for me because yeah.
The balance between stability and flexibility.
Well, because in gymnastics, honey, you have to kind of like push through the ground. You gotta like push the ground, push through the ground. So it's like, my shit is like this all the time. But it's strong. It's strong and flexible. You know what I'm saying? Okay, anyway, we're burning questions because we're going to keep talking about Foursquare, I feel like, Corbin.
And I mean, I'm down to talk for the rest of the hour, but you have some questions.
Yeah. So before we start, I do have a quick question for you. I know you use all pronouns, but do you prefer I interchange them? Do you like have one that you prefer for a conversation?
Thank you. I feel like people are fucking exhausted when I'm like, you could interchange them, and they're like, we're really not like allowed. And I'm like, okay, I love like your fake rules, but sure, whatever. Like just stick with whatever you want. I honestly interchange. Get your life. Cool. I love like you can go between. I love that, and sometimes people do that, and I just like really like it.
I love
I mean,
that.
that actually
Well,
is like what makes
okay.
you feel the most seen.
Nice. Okay. I love that. I love to make you feel seen.
And also, not to like talk all about Carbon's hair, but your fringe too is doing so much good work for you. It's just no, because I have you guys pin. I'm like, it's like just like pin this. It's like so. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Coming
you.
from you, that
Yeah.
means so much because I've
100%.
watched every bit of Queer Eye and we're going to get into it, but we even got so inspired by your portion of Queer Eye that we made a whole like
Short film.
on
You
what
did?
do. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about it. But
I
like
feel like my Zoom just betrayed me. Now I can't pin you guys anymore, and I hate it.
are you trying?
Yeah, now all I can see is my fucking big head, and I want to see your guys' faces bigger. But I do still love your fringe, even though it's like
Thank
small
you.
now. Whatever, it's fine. I love it.
Thank you so much. I really
You're
appreciate that
beautiful.
and I tried for you.
Yeah.
You do because you do the hair.
I'm
No,
I've
your
been-
fringe. Now I'm talking about
your
Me,
fringe.
Emily.
yeah.
Yes.
Emily's fringe.
Yeah.
Emily's fringe. I was wanting to say Stacy because you low-key look exactly like my
okay.
old roommate Stacy.
I hope that means that you feel closer to me.
No, she's really sweet. No, she's well. I mean, I feel close to both of you, but she's like really cute and has like a really cute face and a really cute fringe, and she's a really good hairdresser.
I love it.
Wow. That's a big compliment.
Yeah, this was like a big move for me though. Like I had just
Getting
like
hairs on your
long
face.
straight hair forever, and I would just do like a aggressively high ponytail, like a headache high ponytail forever. And then a few months ago, I like cut my bangs, went full
Took
fringe,
a lot of Advil.
and I have no regrets. I love it.
I love it so much, and can I tell you such a thing? It looks like you've had like it looks so meant for you. Like it does not look. And I mean, this is like a good thing. Sometimes I feel like when someone first gets a fringe, I call it like bazooka bang because it almost like sticks out because it like
Yeah.
doesn't know what to do yet. Like it's not like.
Yeah.
But yours just looks like it's meant to be there. Like it's been living there in a really chic way.
We're working
Yes.
together. Yeah.
And not that you asked me, but I love when there's like a straighter fringe. Actually, I just love this. I just like a bold, big red lip. Like the reddest,
On me?
brickiest.
Okay.
Like Emily in Paris ass. Like
I'll do it.
red lip with that fringe would just be like, ah.
Now that you told me to, I'll do it. Yeah.
Just for fun. Not that you need
Yeah.
it, but just like for fun. Just like for like a moment when you just really want to like
Yeah.
with the look.
I love it. I'm very into it.
I wish I could wear a red lip, but it gets like stuck in my stash and it
Yeah.
gets like crusty and it's like not the life I'm trying to live.
Yes.
But if I was like no beard, I would like have such red lips.
I could see it for you, honestly, beard or no beard. I love it.
Yeah, I could see it with a beard, but maybe not like the whole day.
It like starts cute for like a photo shoot, but then like an hour later, and the only thing I do like cishet is like eat. Like the way I eat is really like hideous. Like I feel like I just like I always like look at my face afterwards and I'm like, how did this happen? Like I just like there's food everywhere. Like I eat eggs in the morning and like there's like yolk on my fucking like I have like yolk everywhere. So it's like it really red lips like because I really have tried. Also like eye makeup, I forget and then I'm like, ah.
Oh,
And then
I do the
just-
same. I'm like a big eye rubber in the way that like I was hearing about Kim Kardashian and like all the Kardashians are so careful with like not moving their face at all and like sleeping on their backs.
I do that.
You do
I
that?
do that.
That's
I
impressive.
am really committed to like.
That's very
No,
impressive.
I literally sarcophagus myself. Well, after I get my cuddles from my husband, I do a sarcophagus and I put pillows on both sides. And I put my arms up on pillows. No, 'cause
What's a
can I tell-
sarcophagus?
Yeah, can I tell you? Wait, this one friend of mine used to get like all these fillers, and then which is like fine, like we love fillers or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they couldn't do fillers for this one reason, and then they did this other thing. So then they started sleeping on their backs because they like had to, right?
Yeah.
So they started sleeping exclusively on their backs because they're like recovering from this one thing. And then after like 3 weeks, I was like, you never
fantastic.
looked better. I was like, is there something? Is there like a new like thing that they came out with or something? They were like, oh, no, it's just because I'm like sleeping on my back. I actually like stopped doing all of those things. And if you think about it, it's like 8 hours a night,
Yeah.
right? Or, 6, 8, however much hours you get.
Yeah.
And if you're like crunching your face like on the pillow and just like side to side crunching, like it's the gravity. If you just lay on your back,
Yeah.
like the gravity, it just like it keeps it like smoother, honey, because you're not like cramping your face. So actually, I really stand by that. I think that's like a major thing. So they're onto something. And also, I'm obsessed with Skims. This is actually a Skims dress. Like I used to try to like fight it. I was trying to fight it so hard. Like I was like, I'm not doing it. And then actually like I used to be like, I'm kind of just like a hardcore Kim K stan, and I don't know what, like, I used, like, and it was Skims. It was honestly Skims. Like, I was like, why am I, like, what am I trying to prove?
Yeah.
I'm not above being obsessed with the Kardashians. Like, who do you think you are? So I'm fully obsessed now. I love Skims. It's been 2 years, and I've never looked back. Like, or it's been like a year and a half ago. I'm like a full, like, actually, like, I never, like, didn't like them. I was just like, I'm not going to be, like, open fan, but now I'm just like so open. I'm out. It's Pride.
You're being who you are.
As a full Kardashian fan, I am.
I think a big piece for me with the Kardashians is like, I like fangirl you because I find you're like a big activist in the community, and I really appreciate when people use their platforms like that, you know, and like that means a lot to me. But for the Kardashians, I was like struggling with them for a while because I'm like, they don't stand for anything. Like, what's going on here? But Kim starting to do the prison reform stuff, I'm like, okay, she stands for something. She's doing something with her platform. I appreciate her more now.
Everybody stands for something. It's just a matter of like
being vocal about it and using your platform.
Okay, but can I just say I have like a really controversial take, and I don't know if we should use it, but I'm just going there. I'm feeling safe. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Bobby says that it's really good to take care of your house and like your space because it helps like your mental, like from like things not being like really cluttered. And when I first met him, like I used to like not necessarily make my bed like all the time. And every once in a while, especially if it's like a weekend or like first thing in the morning, like I won't, but usually by like 9 or 10, like after my little workout, like when I'm getting ready, I make that dang bed. And I've been doing that for like years now, even when I went through my like no working out phase, which is, you know, whatever. But like there is something to that. And I feel like they're, you know, say what you will about like all the stuff, you know, all the other stuff, but they are organized as shit. And so maybe they're being advocates for mental health because they are so organized. And Bobby says it's good for your mental health when you're organized. And Kim really is into prison reform. So it's like organization, prison reform. Yes, honey. No, I really am into that organization. Like that organization. Like, did you see Chloe's closet? It came up on my Instagram reel, or the cover.
The pantry. Yes, the pantry. Of course. I am also like a secret fan of the Kardashians too. I'm like, I'm not gonna admit it either. And before we jump into this beautiful conversation, we also wanted to show some love to JVN's hair care line, JVN Hair. Not because this is sponsored or anything. We just genuinely really love their products, and we're really grateful for all the opportunities that they've given us this past year. We had the really special opportunity to moderate a panel discussion for them at one of their product launch events, and they also supported Turning Heads by donating some of these beautiful products to all of the folks who came and watched the launch event. Loads of our friends and participants have all said that they've like repurchased them, and they're also products that we use all the time,
every day,
literally. And you know, we have the cutest shags around, so
who, me?
That's what makes this possible. My main fave is the deep moisturizing mask.
Tell me why.
Well, I use it like once a week, kind of like conditioner, which I think is what you're supposed to do, I hope.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's how I do it too, actually.
Yeah. I use it in the shower, and it just makes my hair look so nice. I kind of stopped using product every single day. Yeah. Before I was using like drugstore kind of stuff, and I was going through product really quickly because I was having to use it a lot.
So much of it.
But now I'm like mainly just using this.
Just a little. Just a little bit.
And in between, some days I just add a bit of like the Nourishing Shine drops, and I look this cute.
Literally so good.
Thank you so much.
What allows me to have these gorgeous curls for these gorgeous girls, for me, it's actually the air dry cream. Just a little bit will go a long way. And I use it literally every day. And then whenever I get a little bit dry, the conditioning mist is like almost like a leave-in conditioner kind of spray, but you just do a little quick little spritzies and you're good to go.
But that's enough. Let's get into the episode.
Transition.
I'm ready for your questions.
I'm going to get started. Okay. So with all that you've accomplished in such a short period of time, I wonder what are some of the best and worst parts of having so many business opportunities on the go?
You have a lot on the go.
Sometimes I feel like it looks like it's been a short time, and in some ways it has, but like next year will be like 10 years since it'll be like the 10-year anniversary of like Game of Thrones, like in like April of like next year. Like that was like the first thing that I kind of ever did on camera, and that was my first experience like producing and writing and acting and you know, doing hair other than just like off camera or like behind camera in the salon. I kind of have been working at getting here for a while. I think that career has been like 4 years, and I think in the last 4 years I've learned so much about public life. It's so much more complicated than kind of what I thought it was. I was just saying yesterday that I was like, at first I just really wanted to not worry about my HIV medication and like rent. I was like, oh my God, I like, maybe I can like get off of like subsidized, like, you know, having to like worry about filling out all of these like forms to make sure that I can get my HIV meds every year. And like not worry about like, what if I paid my rent like a year at a time? Like even home ownership like didn't like occur to me. I was like, I just like want stability. But I didn't realize like everything that kind of comes with doing all the other things that I've gotten to do. So it's definitely been an adjustment. I think part of my mantra has been this year, no is a source of abundance. Because I think for the first like year and a half, 2 years, I felt like I had to say yes to everything because I was like, oh my God, this could be over tomorrow. And I think being a survivor of abuse and being someone who has been through what I've been through, like I was always kind of waiting for like the other shoe to drop. And my therapist is kind of like, girl, you're like living with HIV, like dealing with so much stuff, like maybe like you're a survivor of abuse, like maybe the shoes have dropped, like maybe it's gonna be okay now, like maybe like and I was like, I don't know, girl, I feel like something any minute. So but you know, kind of like trying to settle into that and like finding balance, finding peace in that balance, learning like when to turn off has been something that's been coming and growing. But yeah, I feel like you're always kind of learning with your job, no matter what your job is, like how to have better boundaries in it, how to have a better relationship to it. And that was certainly true like before Queer Eye, and I think it's like been more true after.
In the act of like feeling like you need to say yes to everything, especially at first, and still like dealing with a lot of your own personal issues and going to therapy and like having all of that at once, was it ever like overwhelming, or did you feel like, you know, maybe you had to say yes to less things, or like how did you even manage that? Because I know that for us in the growth of what we're doing, like we always feel like we have to say yes to everything, otherwise that opportunity might slip away, and it's been really difficult to find that balance between how many yeses and when to just like know to listen to your body and take a break,
especially during Pride Month. For sure, it's like this is the time where, like, the only time honestly where companies want to reach out to us and like work with us and like fund the work that we're doing. So it's like you feel like you have to seize everything, but then it's like gets to the point where we're just like exhausted and like sleeping on the couch for 3 days because we've like burnt ourselves out. So yeah, you do so much. Like, how do you balance it?
Like, I don't think that you get something in a shelf. Like, I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah.
Or like I always, like, when I say shelf, that's like such a random thing to say, but it's like I don't think you get like your work-life balance or your self-acceptance, or your like boundaries, and like put that in a gorgeously tied box with a bow. Like, put it in your shelf and like, okay, I did that now, and actually I'm like, I've mastered it, because there's so many different like layers to life, and all of those layers are shifting and impermanent, that like we're always kind of like responding to those shifting things. So I do think that like we can get better at it over time, or maybe it's not like such a heavy lift to learn how to manage it. But like my new thing lately has been like this year, it's kind of about like health and wellness and learning more about like how to take care of myself and like prioritizing like eating and like not living off coffee all the time, because that was kind of like a relic of my hairdressing career and eating disorder that I didn't know I was like struggling with. Like for me, it was like getting away from, you know, hardcore drugs and like self-destructive behaviors in my 20s, and then it was like this massive career opportunity happened, and then my world kind of stopped being like burning down around me. So I was like, why am I eating this like this and not like it's been interesting, because it's like your life doesn't stop because you become a public figure, and that's what I've been kind of like wanting to be open with and vulnerable and like authentic about, because whether it's like living with HIV or struggling with drugs or whatever it is, it's like I think a lot of people are going through this, and there's so much like shame and stigma and secrecy around these things. And I think food is the same way, and wellness has become like very charged, because like everyone is so convinced that their way is the right way, and we're all just like, myself included, like a little defensive, because we've been brought up in like a very toxic, misogynistic, like unrelenting beauty culture, and gender, like, you know, violent gender binary that's like very oppressive, and we're around so much negativity that I think a lot of us are like honestly traumatized. So when you start to talk about food or health or wellness or how you take care of oneself, like we all just get very protective, and I know that I do too. So that's like been an interesting thing to balance in the public eye. And you know, that's just like the last 3 months, like there's always something that like you're learning kind of how to balance. So I don't know exactly how I do it, but I think this year my mantra is like I make good decisions, because I kept finding myself asking like 50, it used to be like 3 people, but then it became like 5 and then like 7, like I was like, I needed like a cohort of people to make a decision. And it's like, I can trust myself to make a good decision. Like I make good decisions.
Nice.
And so that was kind of like looking at myself, and like that was my mantra in the mirror that I was doing for like 2 months. And then it went from that to this year was like, no as a source of abundance was another thing. I also think another thing that could be really good and is a really good investment that I started doing this year. And there's a lot of different type of people that offer these type of services. And I also think that there's like free types of this information that you can find through podcasting. But like CEO coaches or like business coaches who like help you learn. Cause like that's who taught me those 2 mantras. A very good friend of mine who is like major and is like a comedian and author and writer and activist, Alok, who I'm like obsessed with and love so much. But Alok was like, girl, you need to get a business, like a CEO coach. And
I love Alok also.
I love Alok so much. I'm like just gigantic fan. And the CEO coach that they put me on to, who I've been working with, really has helped me so much, like learn how to kind of like integrate a lot of the work that I've done in therapy, like into my professional life. And so that's been really helpful. And I also think that it's honestly made me like more effective. It's helping me to realize my own value and like what, because I think sometimes I've just been like working so hard and going so hard that I almost like don't stop very much to turn behind me and like look at what I've done and like let that sink in. Sometimes because I convinced myself that I thought that if I turned around and looked at everything I've accomplished, I would like have a breakdown and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, and then just like head explode. But actually I am strong enough to like turn around and take it in and let these things seep in and then like turn back around and, you know, flip my hair and like keep on going. So it's like we have to check our like the self-limiting beliefs and like the lies that we tell ourselves, which is that I have to say yes to everything. June's the only time people reach out to us. La 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 la. Because even if a part of you feels like that's true, I'm sure we could think of like 1 month or one time outside of June where a company has reached out and been like, Queer Collective, or at least shown a little bite, but maybe we weren't, you know, open to it, or we were going through a bunch of other stuff. Right.
True.
So, and you guys are incredible. So I think, I mean, and actually my CEO coach has a podcast that you should listen to.
What's the podcast? Yes. Let's write this down. By the way, I love that you're learning to trust yourself and really just taking sort of charge of your own life. But like that kind of trust, I feel like it's a hard thing to learn, which is interesting because we're with ourselves all of the time. Like we're with ourselves the most out of anyone. So like if you can't trust yourself, then you know, who can you trust?
It's called Signal, the podcast. I'm sorry, but it's called Signal, and it's by Maury Fontanez.
I just wanted to say, I feel like it was honestly a really good catch there, noticing the self-limiting belief that we do have around like Pride Month, because honestly, I feel like we've been saying that to absolutely everyone lately, because it's like we're so busy right now, and it's like that's the biggest thing in our mind. But it's like, it's true, it is self-limiting. Yeah. You know?
And I feel like when you say it out loud, it's like the more real it becomes.
Totally.
I had this like ultra Christian cleaning lady who was like really traumatizing in like 50,000 ways, that like worked with my mom for like the longest time, but you know, whatever. But she, like, I knew her since I was 9. But she did say this one thing that really stuck with me that I totally believe. Or she said like a lot of like really intense problematic stuff to some wild shit as well. You know, and I actually talked about her husband in my book, because her husband like wrote this letter to the editor of the newspaper, was like, why are we rolling out the red carpet for these queers on Queer Eye, these alternative, you know, beliefs? And I'm paraphrasing, you know, I'm imparting but it was that. And just, you know, it was really intense. But, and then after that, my mom was like, I stuck with you a lot, but that was like, I don't know about all that. So, but whatever. So, but this person used to say that in the Bible, honey. Oh, it already feels weird, but I'm going to go with it because I like the analogy. I do like the analogy because I think there, you know, there is pearls of wisdom and stuff. But there's a lot of like other wild shit, is, you know, we were saying. But they were saying how like basically your word is like the seed that you sow. So like if you speak negatively about yourself, it's like that to me is like another way of saying like self-limiting belief systems. But you're almost like planting a bad seed that's like going to grow or bear like icky fruit. You know, like, and so she would say, after someone would say something really bad, she would go, crop failure. You need to pray for crop failure. And so sometimes when I catch myself saying something weird, I'll be like, crop failure. Like, then there's like that Japanese like water study from like the 60s where they like, have you ever heard about this?
No.
This is actually really important and like very like on the subject. I also talk about this in the book. I just want to make sure I'm getting the scientist's name right. Masaru Emoto. It's called The Hidden Messages in Water. It was a New York Times bestseller, but in this book he talks about like how when they would speak to water under a microscope, when you say like I hate you or like negative things to the water, it would become like, it would form like asymmetrical and like these like asymmetric like weird crystalline structures. But when you said I love you or like I believe in you to the water, they would become like very snowflake and like snowflake like and like perfectly symmetrical and like, you know, like they would just like fit together perfectly. And so it was like water responds to the energy in which you like speak to, and as humans we're made of like all this water. So if you're speaking like negatively about yourself, like I feel like it has like a cellular impact.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really interesting in like the power of positive thought. And even if you don't fully believe it, or you're feeling really negative, or you're feeling really burdened or overwhelmed or whatever, you can look in the mirror, and like that's why affirmations and positive self-talk are so important, because it really can like change your frequency. So if you are feeling burnt out or burdened or whatever, it's like you can say like, I feel burnout and I accept my feelings completely and I see an end. I'm going to start to use no as a source of abundance. I see that light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to have time to rest and restore. So that's like a way that you can talk to that part that feels burnt out and like change your frequency to like get it in like a better place.
Wow, I freaking love that.
Yeah.
That's teaching me things right now, because and also I love that you yourself like sought mentors as someone who I would consider like has mentor capabilities. So it's like always interesting that I feel like the best mentors are people that continue to be students. So I really love how much you continue to learn. And I love the idea and the concept of like frequency and things changing on a cellular level. I do believe personally also that that's true. Like, you know, another example would be like plants. Like if you talk to plants and you tell them you love them and everything, like they'll be happier plants. They will grow much faster and like much more fruitfully, if that's a word. But on the other side, if you don't do that, or you tell them that you hate them or like whatever, or you don't actually like care for the plant and have love for the plant, like same thing will happen. Like they won't grow.
Yeah. So a huge part of Queer Collective is that we lead with the philosophy that art can be a vehicle for social change. And of course, we'd admire you as this queer activist and just human rights activist in general. And we're wondering why you use your platform to speak out on social issues. Like, why do you feel it's important? And then why do you also think it's important for others to follow suit?
Well, I think that it's all really interconnected. And that was part of like why I wanted to write about my HIV status the way I did in my memoir, because on social media things can be so like bit driven, and I think that we've like become really complacent with being like, oh, the average American's like, or like attention span is like 23 seconds, and I'm like like I believe that we can go more, and I believe that there are people who do want to engage deeper, and I think that there's actually like more of those people than people who are like just saying like hateful things or like ignorant things on the internet. So I kind of feel like it's about giving people the benefit of the doubt and like being open about where you are in your life. Because for me, my mission, and I think, you know, really what my childhood mission was that I've kind of have realized that I've come back to, is that like I want to spread love and acceptance by modeling joy and curiosity. Yes. To model joy and curiosity means that you need to be like curious about what you don't know, curious about what you do know, and kind of like share that. And I think that in the words of my friend Ashley Marie Preston, she says that like cross-cultural solidarity is like the only way that we can really break into equity. So I think that we need everyone to do that.
Yes.
I think one thing that I've been thinking about a lot with like trans and non-binary and just like gender non-conforming, equity, trans liberation, and what's happening with all of these anti-trans bills is that like we too often have our allies, and this is like one thing where like it's like pronouns are so important, and also so is understanding anti-trans legislation and understanding like how to prioritize the importance of like what's really affecting our community. And in all of these interviews I've been doing with a lot of like straight people, it's like, can you explain to us pronouns? And I'm like, no, but I can explain to you that there's like 3 states that have felonized trans and like gender affirming healthcare, and that are like felonizing healthcare providers and parents for like seeking therapy or hormone blockers.
Yeah.
And now we're like literally inviting state governments. Like there's literally a bill that is that's coming up in a state legislator. I forget the state. I think it's Ohio, and it's not been passed, but it's just like a proposal. But there's this bill that says that like in sports, if someone on a team questions one of the girls' gender, they have to get a doctor's note confirming their gender. So they will have to like submit to like an exam of their genitals to prove that they are in fact a biological female to participate in sports. So that means that just like, you know, a parent who's competitive, like that, just like we're literally inviting like to uphold this like violent ass gender binary when female athletes do not have the same funding, they don't have the same professional opportunities, like sexual abuse is rampant in women's sports, and we're focusing on like mostly like everyone, because you know like 99% of people are mediocre ass athletes, like you know 1% of the population goes to the Olympics. Similarly, most trans athletes are mediocre. See my gymnastics videos, you'll see like, you know, we're not out here being, you know, Simone Biles, and like I mean for every trans athlete.
But I saw you with Simone Biles in that ad where you did
that was major, but I'm just saying, but it's like that's not gonna win, you know, a medal on it. So but I'm just saying it's like let kids play sports. And now it's even worse than that, because now like we're, you know, felonizing gender affirming healthcare. And like when I say felonizing, I'm talking about like they're literally charging families with felonies if they think that a kid looks like too much of the opposite gender, or thinks that kid is dressing in outfits that doesn't align with their birth gender. Like this is like really intense, like where we are. I think what we need to do better as a queer community is like, we have an opportunity to do a little better, is to do a better job with our cis allies, helping them understand like the ways that the violence of the gender binary is already affecting them, which is that like the amount of women who are killed by their intimate domestic partners, that is an example of the violence of the gender binary. The rampant sexual abuse of children by cis het people, that is an example of the violence of the gender binary. If like so and even just that like the way that the toxic masculinity is pervasive in our culture, that like doesn't allow men to ask for help, doesn't allow men to cry, doesn't allow that, you know, makes fun of therapy, that makes fun of men asking for help, says that that's feminine, says that that's weak. Like that is making men more violent. It makes toxic masculinity worse. And then also this violence of the gender binary, it's violence against women, but it's also education opportunities for women. It's also equity in the workplace against women. It's the patriarchy that's made it a boys' club in so many different industries. And it's that same patriarchy that prevents queer people from being able to get more into science, math, you know, PhDs, like get more into academia, because we are often seen as like only capable of like studying certain things. So that patriarchy, not only does it affect queer people and trans femme people and trans mass people, but it also affects cis people all the time. It's why all these men are like suffering as fuck and are like, they are abused. I mean, I don't think that most men are born abusive. I think that this culture is teaching them to be abusive, and it's teaching them to not look at their emotions. It's teaching them to like pull it up by the bootstraps and man up, and we've seen what that does. And so I think that we need to do a better job of like tying this in. Like this isn't an abstract belief that's only affecting some trans people in some places. This is affecting everyone everywhere, like with violence. And I don't mean like violence in an esoteric way. I mean like people dying, like trans women of color are dying, but it's also not just trans women of color. It's also just like women of color. It's also just women who are being killed by intimate partners. Like that is an epidemic, and we don't talk about that. Like that's what we should be talking about. That is the threat to society. It's not trans people. You know, so I think making that case to straight people, and also making that case to cis het people, and doing it in spaces where it may be uncomfortable, not dangerous for us, but uncomfortable. If you have like a family member who you see on Facebook or you see on Instagram saying really out of pocket wild stuff, even if it's been pervasive, even if you tried before, as long as it's safe for you to reach out to those people, I say we keep trying. Even if it's not our job, but it's like, I do feel like my dad has come a really far way through like continued, much like this podcast where I talk, for 10 minutes straight and just like check in to make sure you're still like breathing. Like, I think we have to do that level of engagement, like not only on social media, but also in our real life. And so I think all of these things are really interconnected. And I don't think that they really like stop touching each other. That's also like, I just did an interview the other day, and it's like, talk about politics at the dinner table, talk about religion at the dinner table. Like, not talking about those things at the dinner table is like meant to keep people in power. And it's also meant to keep people of different faiths scared and intimidated by each other. By not bringing up those conversations, we don't humanize each other. Those are meant to keep institutions of power in power. So let's talk about history. Let's talk about politics. Let's talk about celebrating other types of religions. Like, that is okay for us to do. And let's start to normalize that. And that's part of also why I use they, he, she pronouns interchangeably, because that's a way that we can bring into conversation casually about the violence around the gender binary and the history and the newness around the ways that we identify with gender, into like more casual conversation with people who you may otherwise not have those conversations.
You just said so much that was so good.
And
there's so many points that I want to hit off of that. Like, first of all, like the gender binary, like there's all the time like people ask like, well, why do we need like they pronouns, or like what do you need to change your pronouns, or just like the talk about pronouns in general by some like cis het people, just not understanding it. It's like, well, look at what we've created. Look at what it currently exists with these gender binaries, and it's a lot of violence, and it's a lot of toxicity. It's a lot of people not knowing who they are, people that feel like they don't fit in, because we have categorized the human race into these boxes, into these binaries that we just don't fit into naturally. We don't, and we try to conform to these things, but it's just not possible. And that's why I think that there is like a big movement with trans people, with non-binary people, with queer people, and with pronouns in general. And it's like, so for people who don't understand why we need it, it's like, well, we didn't need these gender binaries in the first place, but here they are. So now we have to fight against it because it's just not working out.
Can I just say something really quick that I don't like that I said? That as someone who's non-binary, I'm trying to like clock like false paradigms or like false opposites or like false binaries when I can. And I think us versus them mentality is an important one. And I said like cis het people several times and saying that like, they don't understand. When a huge movement in the United Kingdom, like the LGBT movement that like seeks, like there's a lot of TERF radical people within the queer community who like don't believe in trans equity and don't like look at Caitlyn Jenner. There's a lot of like people who are not cis het who also hold up this toxic misogyny. So I think that it's like everything's a spectrum. It's never really like us versus them. Like a lot of these things are really intersectional. So it's like I even want to catch myself in saying that, but it's like, but even for Caitlyn, the patriarchy and the toxic masculinity that she's trying to hold up, through working with that, like that is detrimental to her. Like the people that she's fighting for don't even like her. They don't want her. She continues to stick up for people that would rather strip her of her rights. It's sheer money in her case that and privilege of being a white woman, a white trans woman, a rich one that allows her to like to try to uphold that patriarchy for her. So it's like this sort of like toxic holding up of the patriarchy and this trans misogyny, it is mostly in cis het people, but there's also people in our community who unfortunately hold up the same thing. So it's like I just feel like I'm trying to like suss out, even in my own experience, like it's really these like types of behaviors and energies, and it's even like with Republicans and Democrats, because like or conservative, like there is toxic traits on like both sides, but like still we need to do a better job with our words so that we can really be like exacting with what we're saying. It's not an us versus them thing. Like these are like toxic things that we all like, just even though certain people do it more, which is like also a thing. It is more cis het people, but but that also just like furthers this us versus them thing, because we even, and the reason I think that's important, because there's like like maybe 5% or 10% of the queer community who is like those type of log cabin Republicans or like Caitlyn Jenner types. But it's like we just don't want to like give up on those people within the queer community that are those types. Because no one's ever like a write-off. No one's ever like a foregone conclusion. Like we can always keep trying to reach out to people. And those people are important. And I think that's part of why I think it's important for us to like realize that a lot of these issues, like they're intersectional. But I wasn't even trying to clock you because I'm the one who said it first. And I love you to pieces, Carmen.
I agree with everything that you said.
And I think it's a really good point. I've been trying to unlearn these generalizations that I use specifically towards like cis straight men, because I have a lot of like, I don't know, like past trauma with that too, where it's like I just hold up these ideals of what I think you're going to be, and I put that on people before I even get to know them. And I think really a big piece of what we want to do is like bring people together, provide, like put in that labor to provide that education as well. So it's like we're not having to put that labor on other people. I don't know. I don't like the whole notion, I agree, of like canceling people, thinking people don't have the capacity to change or to grow, because I think everyone can constantly be learning and can be growing.
Yeah. It's a matter of just like them wanting to and like putting in the work. But there's like not a person, as long as there's the will, there's definitely not a person that's not able to change or able to learn, able to grow and expand and become a better human being overall.
You just have to make it kind of a more welcoming environment, I think, which is important.
Yeah, I agree with that. And back to another point that you were mentioning, which is like to tell our stories. I think it's so important to tell our stories because now there are quite a few books that you can read and educate yourself with. But who wrote those books? Like they had to tell their stories in order to be able to educate. And if we don't continue to do it, like whoever has the capacity, I understand that different people have different capacities to like be able to educate and tell their stories. So just like within whatever is within your capacity, I do think that it's important to educate and tell your story, even if it's to like one person or like however it is that you're able to do. I think it's important. I think that silence is what keeps perpetuating these toxic behaviors in society. So
and not wanting to talk about things 100%.
Yeah, like what you mentioned, talk about religion, talk about politics, talk about queerness, talk about everything, because the more that we talk about it, the less stigmatized it is, and the easier it is for people to like really find themselves and find what's important to them. And I think overall we can relate better to each other when we talk openly.
Yeah. Of that. My last little beautiful question for you is kind of one that we end off a lot of our interviews on. I think it's just a nice one that expresses like queer joy and shows that not everything is bad in our lives, but there's like beautiful aspects to us as well. So I wanted to know, what's the best part about being you?
Oh my God. I mean, I feel like it's like a gigantic toss up, and it's also so hard to pick one. A lot of times when I look at like my family, like my husband and our animals, like our pets, like it's like our family, I just am like so happy that I can adopt like all of these animals and I love like that. My home life stuff is like, I just never thought I would have this, and it's like so special to me and I love it so much. And I think also just very different on like the opposite end of the spectrum, like having the effect that I've been able to have and like stand for the things that I've been able to stand for and talk about the things that I've been able to talk about and do those things professionally. It's like what I was saying before, like, I mean, it almost like leaves me breathless. Like I don't like to like look at it too much sometimes because I just can't even believe it. But when I do dip my toe into that pool of my accomplishments to feel it for like long enough, I'm like, wow. And then I start to like hyperventilate, cry, and then I'm like, yeah, those are both really cool aspects.
That was really beautiful. And
I love that.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, I think before too, I was saying that you did everything in such a short period of time, but I more mean like you do a lot in short periods of time. You know what I mean? Like you've been at it for a long time for sure, but I think you have accomplished so much, and you've been like, I just admire you a lot, honestly. I think you're a very lovely person, and I think you do everything with a lot of like lovely intention, and I think people who follow you can really see that. And like having this conversation with you, I can like feel your like lovely energy, and it was really, really nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was so lovely talking to you.
I can feel your lovely energy too. I heard that much, and I also can feel that too through the computer. And I've never accidentally talked to someone for like 20 whole minutes before the interview started. I was just having so much fun, and I hope I didn't fuck it up. I loved talking with you all too, and you guys have incredible energy. And I'm so excited to see you guys continue to grow, and I just am very impressed with you too, and I just adore meeting you, Emily and Carbon. So thanks so much for having me, and I'm sorry the internet was hideous.
Cool.
She held together when she needed to.
Yeah.
Thank you, internet gods, for being like unstable but stable when we needed you.
And we're back.
We were so gone, and now we're so back.
I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as we did.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video, because we come out with new videos every single Thursday. You don't want to miss them. Until next time.
Peace. Love you.